Hello, 7th and 8th grade. Today, you and I are going to continue our conversation on the worldviews. Yesterday, we saw that we had entered into a whole new worldview universe. We saw that Christianity, Islam, and New Spiritualism are all centered around some understanding of a God. Now, this week's three, Secularism, Marxism, and Postmodernism, are all blatantly godless. But just like every galaxy has a center, so does every worldview center around something. For the final three, it is humanity. They are, again as we saw in our first video, humanistic. Now why is that? Well, for one, humanity has tried to place itself in the center of the universe many, many times. Think of the many world powers that saw the king as a godlike figure, or perhaps the dominant scientific understanding for centuries that the sun must circle around the earth. Even our Bible is filled with examples of people that saw themselves as higher than God. And looking back over our shoulder at the course of history, we see that sin nature has led to some of these humanistic worldviews collapse in chaos. But today, we are going to explore a worldview that is still around, the humanistic worldview of secularism. In short, secularism is an atheistic worldview that advocates for a public society free from the influence of religion. It is the umbrella term that most atheists fall under. Now, the secularist tells a very different story than any of the theistic or God-centered worldviews. They see themselves as post-Christian and are mainly present in the Western world, like Europe or our own America. In short, the secularism again believes that there is no God, but they only believe in a physical world. They don't believe in a spiritual aspect to that. They see any religion, including Christianity, as a way to hold people's minds captive. It does not allow them to think, and it traps them into an imaginary box of a spiritual world, or so they think. Some have described secularism as an anti-worldview. Their main idea is that they're against a God being. They pursue a perspective on life that has everything removed that is not physical. Enough for our overview. Let's dive into our 5 worldview questions. The secularists generally support evolutionary theory. One of the lines in the Humanist Manifesto reads, "Humanism believes that man is a part of nature and that he has emerged as a result of a continuous progress." Remember, man is at the center of this worldview. So, of course, there is no greater God or no creator that is involved in our beginning. The second question asks, what is wrong with this world? This is an interesting one when looking at secularism. If there is no higher authority than man, then who can tell me what is right and what is wrong? Some secularists would say that this happens through science and human experience. I see a hot pan, I touch it, it hurts, therefore it must be wrong to touch a hot pan. But that definition is not enough. You see, at the core, the problem with humanity, according to secularists, is that we are not sufficiently separated from spiritual ideas or things. But they could point to the Christian Crusades or the Islamic ISIS as textbooks examples of religion leading to destruction and chaos. That is the problem with this world. Now, as secularism has progressed, it has continued to see humans and the human representatives as governments as the highest authority. Therefore, the problems of poverty, of war, and of hardship are solvable by government, by humans. Whatever is the solution, it most certainly is not organized religion or a godlike figure. Now, Richard Dawkins, one of the leading new atheists of our time, and a champion of the secular worldview, said the following on the existence of God. Let's watch it.
What are the 5 best reasons why there is no God? What are the 5 reasons why there are no fairies? The onus is not upon an atheist to say why there is not something. The onus is on a theist to say why there is. Having said that, it is a very interesting question, because a universe with a God would be a very different kind of universe than one without.
So in short, he and many other secularists or new atheists believes that there are no arguments in favor of God. So he does not exist, and God can then definitely not be a part of the solution or for the problems of this world. Now, do you see how a starting point leads to a totally different answer? We start with no God, and we get very different answers on every one of these key worldview questions. We saw that most secularists believe in the theory of evolution, and that is their basis for explaining everything we need to know about our world, and so also how we got here and what we should do now, our purpose. In the secularist worldview, we are evolving animals, continually progressing onward and upward towards some form of biological and social perfection. Now, Christians believe that God made human beings as his own image bearers, but in the evolutionary theory, there is nothing that makes us unique. We're just another animal or another life form on this planet. And lastly, the conversation about life after our time on earth is very short when discussing the secularist worldview. They don't believe anything beyond the physical world, including a heaven or hell. You have 50, 60, maybe 70 or 80 years on this earth, and then yours and I's existence is done. Now, there is very little that the Christian worldview has in common with the secular one because we have a totally different starting point. And yet the secular worldview is on its way, and it has been for many years, to become the dominant worldview in our Western world. The majority of colleges and universities teach that there is nothing in this world beyond the physical, and that the most foolish and ignorant thing you can do is to believe in a God-like being. I love what C.S. Lewis has to say on this. C.S. Lewis lived during the rise of secularism, and he himself had once been an atheist. And he said the following: if the whole universe has no meaning, as secularists believe, then we should never have found that it had no meaning. Just as if there was no light in the universe, and therefore no creatures with eyes, we should never have known that it was dark. God is the light in which our universe, our lives, and our humankind as a whole receives purpose and meaning and answers. Without God, it just does not make sense. Now, there's much more that we could say about atheism and secularism, but our time is running out. Before we leave, just this: secularism and atheism thought does not have to be a threat to our Christian walk. Instead, it can be a personal invitation to find answers to challenging questions of our faith, and to pursue an even deeper knowledge and appreciation of our God, who desires us to know him and to have a personal and fulfilling relationship with himself.